Welcome to the Prep Zone Show, presented by Bevill State. I'm Johnathan Bentley, joined my co-host, Zach McCullar. Zach, now we're going down the home stretch here this high school season, but we got some interesting games coming up.
Yeah, man, can it already be almost over? Yeah,
this time, yes.
Yeah, Curry's got their final game this week. They're going to be the first team in our area to finish out their schedule, and a lot of teams next week are going to be playing their final game. Then it's playoff time, so yeah, we are almost over, and it's sad.
Yeah, and it is sad for some of the teams this year around here. It's been a rough year for a lot of them. Let's jump right into last week's games. Let's go game I went to. Corner 64, Curry 7. That was kind of what you expect.
Yeah, Corner just absolutely dominated that one. Curry, they were able to, score a touchdown at least against Corner, which is more than, some teams have been able. Well, everybody scored on Corners. The thing is, it just doesn't matter.
Yeah. I mean, they scored with 11 seconds to go. I was glad Curry scored.
Right.
And the funny thing was, the play before, Corner intercepted it, ran 100 yards back for a touchdown. It was called back, and then Curry scored on fourth down.
Oh, it must have made some Corner fans really mad. They were going to win 70-0.
It could have been 70, yeah. I was glad for Curry. Dora won 42-27. That was kind of a weird game. You were at.
It was. Dora just could not put the game away. They couldn't do it. But at the very end, they were able to make enough plays to keep Northside at bay, and they win by 15.
Yeah, that was a big win for them.
It was.
It keeps a lot of things in play. Yeah, they were losing. Or it was really close in the third quarter.
It was a 6-point game in the third quarter, and it looked like Northside was about to come back. And then Keyshawn Pryor just absolutely took the game over, and it was a dominant performance by him.
Great. Yeah, he's a great player. Oakman loses to Gordo 35-10. It was a lot closer than the score would indicate. It was 10-3. I mean, Oakman was winning this game 10-7 at halftime. And it was 10-7 late in the third quarter.
It was. They were winning it. But then Gordo's depth and their talent, it just all fell on top of Oakman, and they allowed 28 points in the last quarter or so of the game, and it kind of got away from them there. But it was a valiant effort by the Wildcats, and they're going to give a lot of teams problems in the postseason. Yeah,
Coach Hall said he wasn't playing to keep it close. We're playing to win. So, of course, they kind of, some home run things didn't go their way. Lynn beat Barry 50-0. Another typical Lynn game.
Yeah, Lynn's going to beat everybody and beat them bad. Barry's having a down year, and Lynn took advantage.
Barry will be back in a couple of years. They'll be the team that's like Lynn.
Of course.
Oak Grove, 42-21 over Cordova. I thought that would be a lot closer. I thought Cordova had a good chance to win this game.
They did. Cordova was favored by 2 points, according to a website that predicts all the games in Alabama high school football. But Oak Grove broke their 3-game losing streak, and they were able to really turn some things around. Unfortunately for the Blue Devils, they're on the other end of that.
Yeah, I know they had quarterback problems. Coach Smothers' son was out, so that really hampered them. John Carroll, 35, Jasper, 12. Jasper couldn't make it 2 in a row. Yeah,
and John Carroll's just too good for Jasper. They were able to really outplay them. And Jasper, they're trending in the right direction, but this game against the Cavaliers it was all Cavaliers, basically.
Yeah, and they have a great uniform. The cross on their helmet, really, really nice. Cool colors and everything. Meek, 46, Vina 8. We seen Vina play Curry earlier this year. We figured that would be about the score, right?
Yeah, and Meek, they didn't run the score up on Vina, which is good. It was only 46-8 against Vina, which means shortened quarters and that sort of thing. But Meek is there. They haven't been as dominant this season as they were last season, but at least they can take care of the teams that they should really take care of.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to believe Vina's in your region. I mean, God, you go into the season knowing you're going to win at least one game usually.
Right.
They're on a bad losing streak anyway. But Addison, Faultville, a non-region game this late in the year is kind of weird.
Yeah, you don't see that until it's week 11.
Yeah, but Addison took care of business there. I thought that'd be closer.
So did I. Faultville's a pretty good team, and they really got manhandled by Addison, Addison's offense this year has not been great, but the defense is smothering. It's the strong suit of this football team, and they win by 22.
They're on a pretty good run this year since that loss to Hackleburg. All right, so Terrence, Summit Christian, after 2 forfeits, I was glad they were able to get a team and actually play, even though they lost.
Yeah, they did.
64-14 to Tarrant.
You lose by 50, but at least you play. At least you have enough. At least you have enough healthy people on your team to field a game. And senior night's coming up in a couple of weeks, and Summit Christian, they have enough talent. The percentage of really talented players on their team. I mean, I know it's just 15, but the percentage is pretty high because they have a good bit of talent.
Yeah, they had 15 players, so let me get that number up to 20 by the end of the year. Two more midfield, speaking of running clock, 58, Carbon Hill 0. That was not a good game.
Yeah, midfield, they fixed all of their issues in that game. They were able to put together a complete one, and Carbon Hill on the wrong side of that. Carbon Hill's got 2 games left as they're trying to find something.
Midfield actually has a chance at the playoffs.
They do.
Can you believe that?
Wow.
Yeah. And last game, Aliceville, I really hate this one. Aliceville 44, Winston County 42. Winston County cannot catch a break in these big region games. That Sulligent game and this one.
Yeah, maybe that'll change this week, though. They get Lamar County
hopefully
losing by 2 points to Aliceville. Last year they had a lead on Aliceville and blew it, and then this year lose by 2.
I know. Then the season started so well. They beat Addison, and then one of their star players gets injured, and it's kind of – I mean, if he's playing, they probably win this game.
I agree.
I
completely agree.
Within 2.
If Chris Clemens is on the field,
yes,
they're going to be winning
our player of the
more
week
games.
in week 1 against Addison. All right, so speaking of players, kind of mentioned him already. We talked about Kel Tittle last week. We could talk about Kel Tittle every week, pretty much. He's the top player that could be the player of the week every single week.
You're right. He's one of those top athletes that's going to dominate any game he's playing in.
But this week I wanted to talk about another guy, Keyshawn Pryor, who is our player of the week this week. And you think he deserves it?
I do. I think he did. He had a really big game. Dora was struggling at the quarterback position. Injuries had forced Pryor to move from quarterback to wide receiver. Gets to the north side. They were forced to put him back in at quarterback, and he took the game over completely. He was the main reason they got that win. And while he's an amazing offensive player, his defense is extremely underrated. He is an absolute beast playing defensively, and that's something he doesn't get a whole lot of credit for, but he really should because defensively he's a game wrecker.
Yeah. I mean, him and his brother they're absolute beasts. I remember I had to take a picture of them after they were player of the week the first week. My wife was like, good grief, look at this guy. I was like, yeah, no, this is a high school kid.
Yeah.
No, it's like a grown man and plays like one. So do you think, what would have happened if Pryor didn't come into that game, you think?
I think Dora
moved quarterback.
I think Dora probably would have hang on to that game and make it, it would have been a lot closer than 15 points, though. They would have sweated through the end of that. They might have actually lost it, too.
Wow.
It would have been much closer than it really was.
Well, the thing is, you put in a guy like that who's been in how many of these situations? I mean, it's just nothing new for him.
Enough situations to know exactly what to do.
And that worked out perfectly for Dora. I'm glad. All right, so let's kind of go into this week. We talked about it's the playoffs for a lot of these teams. We kind of know who's in it, pretty much. But some teams have a chance to do something they've never done before, like Corner.
Yeah.
Corner plays at Haleyville. Corner has never won a region championship. I mean,
wow.
They won an area title in I think it was 86 and 87, and have not won one since. Region came along in 2000, so it's been 20-something years, and they've never done it.
Wow.
They almost won it last year.
They should have won it last year.
Came down to the same games at the goal line against Haleyville. Now they go there looking for revenge. What do you think about it?
Well, I was looking at this game, and I was thinking, all right, I'm going to look at Corner. Need to know why I should not pick them. I couldn't find anything. Because this is a game that's at Haleyville. You would expect an undefeated team traveling to a really good Haleyville team. You'd think they'd be on upset alert. But, like you said, this is a revenge game, and Corner really doesn't have an apparent weakness. So I think Corner's going to win this one, though it's going to be close. I
think Corner's better than them. I think Corner's better than last year's Corner team. And I think Haleyville's good, but I think Corner's next level. If they play their game, I think they'll win. So I did pick Corner in that one.
And you hate it for Haleyville because they have a really good team. If they lose this, they're the 3rd seed in that region.
That'll be a tough 3 seed.
That's going to be a really tough 3 seed.
1, 2, 3 is really good in that region.
About like Oakman.
And then you got
be a tough 3 seed.
Good point.
If they were to lose this week, they could win and make it 2 seed, right?
Yeah. Anyway, next up is Dora at Oak Grove. So Dora can clinch second in the region if they win this game. Otherwise, I guess Haleyville's still in play here. But if they win and Corner loses, Dora could do exactly what they did last year.
They could win the region back into it. They lost to Corner earlier this season. Man, that would be a tough break for Corner to drop to a 3rd spot in the region if they lose this game and Dora wins.
Last year they went from 1st to 4th on one play, and Dora moved into 1st. And Dora's hosting no matter what, first round, but they could be the region champ back-to-back years, which would be unbelievable after they lose to Corner again. All right, so a game you're going to be at, South Lamar at Lynn, 6-2 South Lamar, Lynn 7-1. Lynn could win its second straight region title.
And I think they will. I just think Lynn is going to be better than any team they would face in the playoffs, except maybe Coosa Christian, and then it would be close. Lynn is such a good football team. I mean,
just well-rounded.
They have so much talent. I mean, goodness gracious. They have players on this team playing in 1A that could be starting on 5A, 6A schools.
I agree. Yeah, players that will play for everybody around here.
Right.
They're just. I just think they're a lot better than South Lamar.
So do I.
If you look South Lamar, I think they lost it. Did they lose to Pickens? So I mean, yeah, and Lynn took care of Pickens on the road. Unless they make something crazy happens,
right?
They should win this.
Like
game.
Injuries, which is
or a bunch of turnovers or something like that.
I think if anything could derail Lynn's season, it would be injuries, and we hope that doesn't happen.
Don't jinx them. Come on.
Yeah, I'm trying to reverse jinx them.
Right. If you mention it, won't happen.
Exactly.
All right, so another game. This is a huge game in the county. And it's on Friday. We need to mention there's 2 games Thursday this week. Dora at Oak Grove and Jasper. We'll talk about that in a minute. At Pleasant Grove, both Thursday. But this is probably the biggest game of the county on Friday, no doubt. Winfield at Oakman.
That's a massive game.
Oakman coming off that disappointing loss to Gordo, but they can still be second in the region and actually host a playoff game if they can beat Winfield. Which I say no team in the county can ever beat.
Yeah, it's almost impossible. Winfield seems to have the number of our Walker County teams, and you hate to see that. Or Winfield City, I should say.
Yeah,
you hate to see that our teams in our area have that one team that they just can't beat.
Winfield has City on the helmet now.
Yeah, that's technically the name of the school.
Yeah, they have changed that. So anyway, maybe with that change, Oakman will win.
Hey, you've got a point there.
Right? Maybe Oakman was just waiting for that. So Oakman is 1-9 all time against Winfield, but this is kind of like the other game I mentioned. I think they're better than Winfield.
Really?
I really do.
I think they're equally talented because Winfield's got a lot of talent on their team too. Winfield
beat
always
Dora,
talented.
so you know they're pretty
good. They did. I mean, they beat Dora. It was at Winfield. So I think Winfield's going to win this one, but I do think Oakman's going to be able to keep it really close in the end, make Winfield sweat it out.
I really wish Oakman had played Winfield first, then Gordo, but this, I mean, it comes down to this. They're either second or third. I mean, they're in the playoffs,
right?
But you'd much rather have Oakman at home.
Definitely.
First round. That's what it comes down to, this game. So I did go Oakman, but, I mean, I'm going against history.
Right.
Here.
But like you said, they're 1-9 against Winfield, but could they become 1-0 against Winfield City?
Yes, exactly. I'm saying yes.
Okay.
So another team, this is a big game for them. They keep losing these close games. Winston County 4-4 at Lamar County 6-2. So Winston County has to win this game.
Yeah, it's a must win.
Cut dry.
Yeah, it's must win for Winston County, and I think they're going to do it.
Really?
I think they're better than Lamar County. I think Lamar County's 6-2, Winston County's 4-4, and it's at Vernon, which is a tough place to win a football game. I'll say that. Mm-hmm. But I think Winston County's just better.
Now I said that about every other team, exactly. And I don't think that. I don't know. It's just they've lost so many close games. They finally beat Sulligent, which is undefeated.
And then they go and lose to East Lawrence, which should not happen.
Yeah. Now, thank goodness. And then they lose. Tuscaloosa Academy is just a bad matchup for them for some reason.
Tuscaloosa Academy
is just never close. For some reason. This will be super close, but I'm going with Lamar County. I hope I'm wrong because I want as many teams in the playoffs.
I hope you're wrong. I hope you're wrong too. I hope Winston County wins this.
Yes. All right. So technically, I put these games matter, and if you look at the records, well, that Phillips is not 6-2.
Yeah, that's a typo.
But Meek at Cherokee, and they're both 5-3, and you would think, oh, this is going to be a great game. But I mean, Meek is going to.
Yeah, Meek is probably going to wind up winning.
Will be bad.
Yeah, Meek's going to win by 40 at Cherokee.
It'll be name your score type game.
It will, and Cherokee's they might wind up in the playoffs.
I mean, this is a good year for Cherokee.
Yeah, Cherokee, they've been beating up on the teams they should beat up on, and in a region like that, that's what you got to do.
Yep. And Addison is playing Phillips, which I think is 2-6 or something.
They're 2-6.
So Addison it's kind of like similar. They should blow them out.
Yeah.
These two should be blowouts and help them sit. It's going to be 2-3 pretty much for Addison and Meek.
You're right. And Phillips, I will say this, Phillips is the one that allowed 72 points to Meek. And Meek
that's right.
does not have the greatest offense. Could Addison put up 70-something?
The way they run the ball, you wouldn't think so, but I mean, Meek did it. They run the ball too. So they must have had a lot of mistakes and turnovers, had to.
About 5 pick sixes.
Because Meek just keeps them on the ground pretty much. All right, so the other games, these are non-playoff related teams. Jasper at Pleasant Grove, which is number 4 Pleasant Grove.
That's not going to work out.
That's going to be very tough.
And Jasper, they're a really good team for their record. Jasper's got a lot of talent, but Pleasant Grove.
Yeah, this is next level.
Almost
ranked number
impossible.
4. Their only loss is to Ramsey, so that's going to be tough for Jasper. Curry at Cordova. Wait, that's actually backwards. Cordova 1-7 at Curry 1-8.
I think Curry could win this game because, I don't think they will. I'm just saying they could. I think Cordova's going to straighten out some of their issues, and they'll be 2-7 after this one.
I think Cordova's going to have some fun in this one. I hope.
Well, I think it's going to be closer than you would expect. Because I think Curry's going to fight and stay in it for a while. I do think Cordova's going to win it though by 2 touchdowns or so. But Curry, I think they're going to play well. It's the last game of the season for them.
I was glad to see that Eli Kennedy had a great game. Their quarterback's pretty good. Sickles and Kennedy was a good connection last week. They didn't score a lot of points, but they did move the ball some. He went up and got some balls. They always have a good receiver at Curry. It's 2 years in a row. All right, Tarrant at Carbon Hill. Does Carbon Hill finally get a win?
No. No, Tarrant.
Tarrant's actually not
they're
as bad as their
2-6
record.
but they're a tough team. They're scrappy and they can fight. Last year, Carbon Hill went to Tarrant and won by 2 points. This year, Tarrant gets the revenge. And Tarrant's going to advance to 3-6. Carbon Hill will fall on senior night, which you hate to see any team lose on a special night like that.
Yeah, Tarrant. They scored 14 on Lynn. It's pretty good this year.
Yeah.
If you score on Lynn, you've done something.
Yeah, you have.
All right, so Sumiton Christian, which, as we mentioned, we're glad they're playing. 0-8 at Holy Spirit 1-7. And now going into the season, I would have thought they had a chance here, but Holy Spirit actually beat Brilliant last week.
Yeah, Holy Spirit's not. They're 1-7. Their only win is against a Brilliant team that's not very good. But Sumiton Christian, they haven't played a game in 3 weeks. They haven't played a real game against another opponent. I think they'll be a little rusty. They really at 15 players. Holy Spirit, Holy Spirit's right around in there in that term of players, but it's at Holy Spirit, so I'm gonna go with Holy Spirit in this one.
Yeah, me too. I would love to see Sumiton Christian winning. I don't like to see anybody go winless, unless it was Tennessee or something.
I like that.
But yeah, no one around here. But it's been a rough year for some of these teams. But I'm glad they're playing again. That really makes me feel good about Sumiton Christian, that they cared enough to get back out there. All right, so we're going through the top 5 this week. Let's do it different. Let's go from number 1.
Yeah, because we all know who's going to be number 1.
Right.
It's going to be Corner at number 1. Still undefeated, still 8-0. And, Lynn's pretty close in the battle for 1.
They really are. Yeah.
But if Corner can dominate at Haleyville, they're undisputed number 1, and they should rise in the state rankings, too, if they're able to dominate that game.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. 8-0 Corner. I would have never thought it.
It seems like Corner's just a hard place to win at because they always, they're facing Jefferson County schools, and it's really tough against all those teams that they have to play.
Do you know why it's called Corner?
That's a good. I don't, because it's in the corner of the county.
Well, it's the corner of where Jefferson, now you got to think it was further down the road. I think it was Jefferson. I don't know, another county in Walker. Anyway, I have no clue. In other words,
I like that.
I remember a kid on the fishing team had mentioned it because somebody asked him, and it was on the corner of 3 different counties or something like that. It's in the very, very tip top of Jefferson County. I do know that much. But yeah, it's nice to see them doing this well. I don't know if you remember there's an old corner. This one's pretty new.
Right.
And it was down the road, and it reminded me a lot of Curry, actually. So this is...
they're both the Yellow Jackets.
That's true. Now, I walked in with some other people at the Curry game last week, and they were like, how are we playing a school with, the facilities?
Corner's got such a nice place. They
were blown away with it, and I was like, yeah, no.
And they've got a really good football team to match those really good facilities this year.
Yes, they do. It fits now. All right, so number 2 is obviously Lynn.
Yeah, it's going to be Lynn. Any other year, they'd be number 1. But
yeah, if it was last year, probably.
And in my opinion, Lynn's probably got a better chance at winning state title than Corner, just because Corner's in 4A where there's a little more competition.
Oh, yeah.
Lynn,
top of 4A is brutal.
Yeah, if Lynn just does not run into Coosa Christian or anything like that, then they should have an inside track at winning this, getting to Tuscaloosa at least.
Yeah, I was so impressed with Coosa last year when they beat Lynn. They were so good, so well coached. But if you played this game at Lynn, it'll be different.
Yeah.
It'll be different. And Lynn still, had a chance. Coosa was a really, really good team last year. All right, so number 3 is
Well, number 3 is Oakman. They are, their one loss, their one loss was to Sumiton, and of course they added one last week to Gordo. But, those are good losses. I'll say that. Those are really good losses. And, of course, Ryan Hall would tell you there's no such thing as a quality loss. A loss is a loss. But, man, when you're playing Gordo and Sumiton, they got shocked last week. Tuscaloosa Academy beat them.
I'm telling you, that team is really good. They're kind of sneaky good, and they're going to – wonder if they'll grow since they're like a private school.
Probably so.
I bet these schools will be happy to see them go to 2A.
Yes.
Or 3A at that point. All right, the next up is Dora.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, Dora, which big win over Northside. And they have kind of righted the ship again. It's kind of,
they have.
So many similarities to last year with these teams. But Dora, after the off week, has caught fire again.
Around, yeah.
And so I don't see them losing again regular season. Definitely not. But what do they do in the playoffs this year?
That's a good question.
I don't know. That'd be interesting to see.
It depends on the matchups.
It's all about the bracket.
If they get a team they don't match up well against, they could lose in the first round. If they get good matchups, they could make it to the third round. Matchups are that important.
They had a tough matchup last year. Randolph turned out to be a really good team. I missed that pick, by the way, last year.
Yeah.
Terrible. All right, and who's next up?
Next up is going to be at number 5, Addison. They're in my number 5. Yeah. So, did we agree all the way up?
We did all the way.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a rarity to see us agree on something like that.
I just can't believe Addison kind of – it's hard to say, but they really came out of nowhere this year. And it's Addison. They're always going to be pretty good. Right. They won 9 games last year, but this year they're better.
We should just get rid of the Addison coming out of nowhere because they should never – we should never underestimate
Addison,
this team. It's Addison. We should just never try to underestimate them.
They always have a guy running the ball. They always have a quarterback that can run. They always have a defense. And it's no different this year. They just beat Meek, which made the difference.
Right.
Otherwise, it's probably Meek in the spot.
Probably.
That game came down to that. It was that close. All right, so another game you went to last week. Alabama got the big win over Tennessee. Did you light up a cigar after the game?
No.
That would have been illegal.
Probably.
In several different ways.
But then again, it's also illegal to sneak cigars into the stadium, so they really aren't paying attention to laws for the third Saturday of October.
Did they allow lighters into the stadium?
No, they don't, but they allowed people to bring them in for that one game.
I wonder if they did this time, just because it was Tennessee.
Yeah, they allow lighters in this time because about every person in the stadium had one, nearly.
Right.
You ever secondhand?
It's tradition.
You ever secondhand smoked about 100,000 cigars?
No. Oh, man. But, I mean, it was worth it.
Definitely.
Getting that win because it did not look good at halftime.
No, it didn't. That was one of the worst first halves defensively. Alabama should have allowed 4 touchdowns in the first half. Tennessee missed a couple of open throws that would have scored for them, had to settle for field goals, and that's the reason Alabama was able to claw back in the game.
You cannot get a field goal.
When you're playing Alabama, you cannot settle for field goals. And then again, you also don't want to be like Lane Kiffin and go for it every single fourth down and miss and get blown out that way.
That's happened, yes. But, yeah, I mean, that second half, Alabama plays that second half like they do the whole season.
Right.
Could they win it?
Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, it was that good of a half. It was crazy. It was like a different game, wasn't it?
It was basically a different team. Saban went and switched them out at halftime, got, a football team that knew what they were doing, and they were able to come out there and dominate.
I know, and he seemed really happy after the game.
He did.
Genuinely happy.
And he's always, snarling and frowning. And now, these past couple of years, he's been a little happier. Of course,
he's mellowed out. Finally.
He has. He's starting to slow down and enjoy it a little bit.
I remember last year that Tennessee beat them.
Right.
They tore down the goalpost, threw it in the river, and I remember I was at a store in town, and a guy said that Saban should have jumped in the river because he was the reason they lost that game.
You can't.
So I mean, people just. And then 1 year later, everybody's happy now. I mean, just if you are talking bad about Saban, you just don't remember.
It's about like last year when Aaron Judge broke the home run record, and everybody was cheering him, and a week later he strikes out in the playoffs, and everybody boos him at Yankee Stadium. It's about like that.
Right. Once you appreciate what you got.
You don't appreciate success when you're so used to it.
Yeah. And Alabama's pretty used to it at this point.
Definitely.
All right, so the Auburn game, which I was at, was very disappointing.
Hey, at least Auburn didn't get blown out because Ole Miss is a team that could do that to you.
I really thought the difference is Jackson Dart is no what's the LSU quarterback?
Jaden Daniels.
He's no Jaden Daniels, obviously, because Jaden Daniels, they can do anything with him.
He could run 100 miles an hour.
But
down
Dart,
the field.
not as good. So, I mean, when they got up 2 touchdowns, I knew it was pretty much over. because the offense was. It is the worst SEC offense on third down in 8 years of anybody.
Even
SEC.
Vanderbilt.
Yes.
Or Arkansas back when they were so bad.
The passing game is down there with like the service academies this year. I mean, it is bottom of the barrel stuff. And they have Mississippi State this week.
Which has also been very bad offensively. So it should be an excellent matchup.
Yeah. And they need this to make a bowl. But as I said this week, do we really need to see this team in a bowl game?
I mean, they could always go to the Birmingham Bowl.
What's you use a bowl game to like improve for next year? Get this. I think all these people are going to be gone. I think Thorne will be gone. Ashford might be gone.
I don't know.
OC might be gone.
I
just don't see any of these people back. So what would be the point of a bowl game? I say
to say you've been there.
Well, yeah. I mean, you like it for the kids.
I mean, if
the players need to be in a bowl game.
I will say this: if a team goes 6-6, why do they accept a bowl game they can't win? Make it a losing season at 6-7, which
instead of just going 6-6.
Right, just stay at 6-6.
Do you see Auburn winning 6 or 7 or 5?
I see Auburn winning. Well, if I said that, it'd give away my pick for later.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll get that answer just a little bit.
I don't know. They have Mississippi State this week, and I really just don't. I don't know. It's going to be close.
They should beat Vanderbilt at least.
I don't know.
That's true.
They do not play well on the road. It's a short trip, but look at the Cal game. And LSU, they have not looked. Arkansas on the road is going to be tough. But anyway, let's go into your Zach's picks this week.
We don't have a whole lot of good games, but the games we do have are pretty good. I'm going to start with a very intriguing game in the ACC, which it looks like Florida State has started to run away with the ACC, and these are a couple of teams that could be back into
Clemson's done.
Right, Clemson's out. They've got 3 losses now, which is hard to believe.
4-3.
Wow,
didn't see that.
I didn't see that either. So back on subject, these two teams have one conference loss. They could get back in the conversation and make it to Charlotte. Duke at Louisville. Wow. Louisville 2 weeks ago had one of the worst losses you'll ever see to a one-win Pittsburgh team. The only other terrible loss like that the ACC suffers is when North Carolina can't take care of business against a Virginia team. They're 24-point favorites to beat.
And don't forget Miami.
That's true, Miami. But that was extenuating circumstances. Those were the most extenuating circumstances that you could ever imagine.
What a terrible loss.
Oh, my goodness. So back on subject. Duke at Louisville. we're chasing rabbits here. Finally, but back to the pick. Does Duke win or does Louisville win?
Boy, that's tough. Is Louisville for real? I mean, that's the question. Like you said, they lost to Pitt. I think I'm going Louisville, though, at home.
Yeah, I'm going to have to do that, too. But for another reason, it's Duke's quarterback, Riley Leonard, out of Fairhope, Alabama. Sprained his ankle. He's really been banged up. So if he does play, which I don't think he will, if he does, he won't be anywhere near 100%. That's why I think Louisville's going to win this game. Mm-hmm. All right, next game, Oregon at Utah. It is one of those Pac-12 games that we've become accustomed to seeing this year where both teams are highly ranked, and it's just hard to pick a favorite. Oregon is on the road, which they already lost one big road game. Utah's coming off a massive win against USC. So what happens here?
Wow, those were both great games.
They were.
Oregon's lost to Washington, and USC was a classic last week. I'm going with Oregon, but I never give Utah credit.
No.
Basically, I just don't. But they're always good, and they have USC's number. But I think Oregon, hopefully they don't lose another game. I'd like to see them get in the playoffs.
Well, I'll say this. The past 3 times Utah and USC played, I picked Utah and got it all right. Last week I picked USC, and Utah wins. So I apologize to Utah for not picking you. And I'm not going to pick you again this week. I think Oregon's going to win that game. I think Oregon's just we've overused this term tonight, but they're just better. They're just better than
exactly. I would think that too. I think they're just better all the way around.
All right, now here's an intriguing game. We're in the SEC, so we're back to teams that we really know well. Tennessee at Kentucky.
Ooh, it's interesting.
Kentucky they're a tough out at Kroger Field, which is where this game's going to be. Tennessee's coming off, we mentioned, one of the most heartbreaking losses you can imagine, blowing a 13-point lead to your biggest rival. So does Tennessee bounce back, or do they just completely fall apart and give up?
I think they're pretty evenly matched, but I'm going to probably take Tennessee. I have no reason to, but I don't know. It's going to be really, really close, but I'm going Tennessee.
Well, I agree with you because it seems like Kentucky just cannot win big games.
They'll lose by 2 points.
They will. They'll do that,
Unless
or they'll lose by 50 to Georgia or something
Yes.
like that. So I think Tennessee's going to win that game. Now, here's the question: do you think it's going to be a big win for Tennessee, or do you think it's going to be really close?
I think it'll be really close.
Okay, I think Tennessee
At Kentucky.
Okay, I think Tennessee will probably win 10, 15, maybe 17 points,
Wow.
right around in there. So yeah, they're going to have a better game. All right, I'm going to go to the final game. One I'm sure you're going to be interested in, and we kind of teased you a little bit.
No, I don't even know if they're playing. I think they're off this week.
They may be, for all we know. Mississippi State at Auburn. Does Auburn win and put themselves in position to possibly make a bowl game, or does Mississippi State win another game? Which last week they beat Arkansas by the big high-scoring 7-3.
Yeah, that made no sense. Arkansas almost beats Alabama. Well, not almost. They had a chance to beat Alabama.
They had a chance.
And then they scored 3 points at home. I know Will Rogers is hurt, and that helps Auburn probably because he is one of the better quarterbacks, even though he hasn't been all that great this year. Now, if Leach was still there, I would play probably Mississippi State because Auburn can't score. Right. But it's going to be really close and probably ugly. Maybe Auburn wins 17-10 or 21-17, something like that. But I think they'll win. They've got to if they want to make a bowl game.
You're right. It's frightening when we agree, but I have to say, yes, we're going to agree on that one, too. I think Auburn's going to win close. I think Auburn's going to play poorly in this game. I think Robbie Ashford needs to start again. He needs to get more playing time.
He's playing 28% of the snaps. And they both threw terrible interceptions last week.
Yeah, but I think Auburn's going to win, not because they play well, but because Mississippi State just plays worse.
I will say the defense has been pretty good. I mean, holding Ole Miss to 28 was not bad. Now, LSU was a different beast, but they've been good several times this year. And I think they will be this week, too. Okay. I really feel good about it, and I usually don't.
Of course, Alabama's on an off week this week, so that's going to wrap up my picks so far for this week. See what happens.
So who's Alabama got next?
LSU.
Well, that's going to be interesting. You'll be there.
It's going to be
that'll be a wild atmosphere.
No
cigars, though. They smoke cigarettes after this one? Is that right? No? Oh, okay.
I don't know what they do. I don't even know what I reckon they don't storm the field.
Alabama.
They're just happy.
Could Alabama ever storm the field? What would it take?
Nothing.
5 winless seasons in a row, and you beat the number 1 team in the nation. Maybe
they still wouldn't
do it.
No.
Well, that's the thing. You can. If you're Alabama, you can't.
Right.
It's like Notre Dame. I guess they can't either because they think so much of themselves.
I think Notre Dame would storm the field.
I mean, they could.
If they're going to have a green uniform game, they're going to storm the field.
Alabama just couldn't. It would be huge news if Alabama stormed the field.
It would be like Alabama showing up in a blackout wearing all black uniforms or something. No way it's happening.
Not happening. People would lose their minds. Yeah. It's a classic uniform.
Exactly. Like Penn State's.
And like Haleyville's.
Yes.
It's the same. All right, so that wraps up the show. I'd like to thank Bevill State for sponsoring and Jake for producing. And we'll see you next week.
Bevill State
is your community college
for
convenient and affordable academic transfer options,
rewarding health science programs, high wage, high demand career tech training.
Your story starts at Bevill State.